Have you ever felt like you're walking through life alone, wondering if you're enough? This is the story of a woman who turned solitude into strength, proving that you don't need a crowd to shine. Her journey will show you that the greatest friendship you'll ever have is the one you build with yourself. Join us to discover how she became her own hero. She walked through life with no one by her side, yet she found a quiet power in her solitude. At first, the silence felt heavy. No laughter shared over coffee, no late-night talks, no one to cheer her small wins. But instead of letting loneliness define her, she began to listen to the stillness. In those moments, she discovered her own voice. Maybe it was writing her thoughts in a journal or savoring a sunrise alone. People might have seen her as isolated, but she was building something profound, a relationship with herself. That quiet space, once daunting, became her sanctuary. It taught her that she didn't need others to feel complete. Her presence, her thoughts, her dreams were enough. That realization wasn't just strength. It was a spark that lit the path to her own unshakable worth. Without a circle of friends, she learned to be her own source of joy. She didn't wait for invitations to live fully. She created her own moments. Maybe she danced to her favorite song in her living room or treated herself to a meal she loved. People might have thought her life was empty, but she was filling it with small, meaningful acts. She found delight in a book that spoke to her soul, or a walk where she noticed the world's beauty. That ability to find happiness within herself was a quiet rebellion against the idea that joy needs a crowd. Her smile, born from her own heart, was a magnet, drawing curious glances from strangers who sensed her inner light. She wasn't just surviving alone, she was thriving, proving that her own company was more than enough. Life tested her in ways that felt unfair. Car troubles with no one to call, milestones with no one to celebrate. Yet each challenge became a chance to grow. She learned to fix what she could, to ask for help when needed, and to cheer herself on. Maybe she stood taller after solving a problem alone or felt pride in a goal she reached without applause. Others might have seen her solitude as weakness, but she saw it as strength. Every hurdle she faced built a resilience that shone through her actions. That quiet determination, that refusal to let loneliness stop her, became her power. People began to notice, not her aloneness, but the way she carried herself with grit and grace, a woman who turned obstacles into stepping stones. In the absence of others' voices, she found her own. With no one to guide her, she learned to trust her instincts. Maybe she made a bold choice, like starting a new hobby or moving to a new city, and surprised herself with her courage. She began to ask, "What do I want?" instead of, "What do others expect?" That inner voice, once quiet, grew clear and strong. People might not have seen the battles she fought within, but they saw the confidence in her steps. Her ability to listen to herself, to make decisions rooted in her own truth, was a quiet revolution. It wasn't about being loud or showy. It was about being true. That authenticity became a light that others couldn't help but notice, drawn to her unapologetic self. Her solitude taught her to see others' hidden struggles. She noticed the quiet ones, the ones who smiled to mask their pain. Maybe she offered a warm nod to a stranger or a kind word to a coworker. Her empathy wasn't about gaining friends. It was about understanding loneliness. She knew how it felt to be unseen, so she made others feel seen. That generosity, born from her own journey, was a gift. People might have said, "You're so thoughtful," or "You made my day." Her kindness wasn't a plea for connection. It was a reflection of her heart. That selflessness, that ability to give without expecting anything back, made her presence radiant. A quiet force that touched lives even in her solitude. With no one to guide her, she learned to carve her own way. She didn't wait for others to show her the road. She found it herself. Maybe she took up painting to express her unspoken thoughts, or explored a new city on her own terms. Each step she took was a choice to live fully, even alone. People might have seen her solitude as a lack, but she saw it as freedom. That independence, that courage to move forward without a crowd, was her strength. Others began to notice. Not her aloneness, but the way she walked with purpose. They might say, "You're so brave to do that alone," or "I admire how you just go for it." Her path wasn't always easy, but it was hers, and that authenticity made her a beacon of quiet determination. She discovered that joy doesn't need an audience. It blooms in the small moments. Maybe she savored a quiet morning with her coffee, or found peace in tending to her plants. These simple acts became her treasures. People might have thought her life was lonely, but she was finding beauty where others overlooked it. The way the light fell through her window, the sound of rain on a quiet evening, these were her companions. Someone might notice her calm and say, "You always seem so content," or "You make the little things special." That ability to find wonder in the ordinary was her gift. It wasn't about filling a void. It was about filling her life with meaning, proving that happiness could grow from within. In moments of doubt, she learned to steady herself. Without friends to lean on, she became her own foundation. Maybe she faced a tough day and soothed herself with kind words, or took a deep breath to push through fear. That self-reliance was her power. Others might not see the quiet battles she fought, but they saw the strength in her eyes. They might say, "You handle everything so well," or "You're so grounded." Her ability to be her own anchor, to find calm amidst life's storms, was a beauty that shone brightly. It wasn't about never feeling lost. It was about knowing she could always find her way back to herself, a strength that drew respect from those around her. Her time alone sharpened her ability to see others' hidden struggles. She noticed the quiet ones in a crowd, the ones who felt unseen. Maybe she offered a smile to a stranger, or listened patiently to a coworker's worries. Her solitude had taught her empathy, a deep understanding of what it means to feel alone. People felt her warmth and might say, "You really get me," or "You make me feel seen." Her kindness wasn't about gaining friends. It was about sharing the compassion she'd learned to give herself. That empathy born from her own journey was a quiet force, creating connections that touched lives. Even if she walked alone, she didn't just accept her solitude. She embraced it as a choice. No longer waiting for others to complete her, she found freedom in her independence. Maybe she took a solo trip or pursued a dream others didn't understand. That courage to live on her terms was magnetic. People noticed her confidence and might say, "You're so fearless," or "I wish I could be that independent." Her independence wasn't about pushing others away. It was about knowing she was enough. That certainty, that unapologetic embrace of her own path, made her stand out. She wasn't just surviving alone. She was building a life that reflected her strength, inspiring others to trust in their own. She learned to fill her days with rituals that brought her peace. Without friends to share plans, she crafted her own traditions. Maybe a Sunday morning spent reading, or an evening walk to clear her mind. These moments weren't just routines. They were acts of self-love. People might have seen her alone at a cafe, but they didn't see the joy she found in her own rhythm. Someone might say, "You always seem so calm," or "You make time for yourself." Her rituals were her way of claiming her space in the world, of saying her life mattered. That intentionality, that quiet commitment to herself, was a strength others noticed. It wasn't about filling time. It was about filling her heart with purpose, a beauty that shone in her steady presence. Her solitude became a canvas for creativity. With no one to distract her, she poured her energy into new passions. Maybe she started writing stories, painting, or cooking dishes that sparked her imagination. Each creation was a piece of her soul, a way to express what words alone couldn't. People noticed her spark and might say, "Your work is so inspiring," or "You're so talented." Her creativity wasn't about impressing others. It was about exploring herself. That freedom to create without judgment was her power. It showed in the way she carried her ideas with confidence, the way her eyes lit up when she shared her craft. Her solitude wasn't empty. It was a wellspring of imagination that made her radiant. She learned to move through life at her own speed, unhurried by others' expectations. without a crowd to keep up with. She set her own rhythm, maybe taking time to savor a project or pausing to reflect before deciding. That deliberate pace was her strength. People might say, "You're so thoughtful in what you do," or "You never seem rushed." Her ability to slow down, to live intentionally, was a quiet rebellion against a world that demands haste. It wasn't about being aloof, it was about being present. That calm, measured way of living drew others to her, curious about the peace she carried. Her pace wasn't just a choice. It was a statement of her self-worth, a beauty that resonated deeply. She didn't hide her struggles. She faced them with courage. Solitude taught her that vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was honesty. Maybe she admitted a fear to herself or shared a quiet truth with someone she trusted. That openness, that willingness to be real, was her power. People might say, "You're so genuine," or "I admire how honest you are." Her vulnerability wasn't a plea for pity. It was a testament to her strength. It showed in the way she carried her truth with grace, unafraid of judgment. That authenticity drew others closer, not because she needed them, but because her courage to be real inspired them to do the same. Her heart, open and brave, was a beacon of beauty. She realized her life was a story worth telling, even if she told it alone. Every choice she made, every goal pursued, every fear overcome, was part of her legacy. Maybe she mentored someone quietly or left a mark through her kindness. People noticed her impact and might say, "You've changed how I see things," or "You're unforgettable." Her legacy wasn't about fame. It was about living true to herself. Each step she took, each moment she chose to show up, added to a story of resilience and grace. That quiet determination, the commitment to her own path, was a beauty that inspired others. Her life wasn't defined by who was beside her. It was defined by the light she left behind. She found freedom in setting her own pace, unburdened by others' expectations. Without friends to match her stride, she chose when to run and when to rest. Maybe she lingered over a book that spoke to her or took a slow walk to soak in the world's details. People might have seen her solitude as stillness, but it was a dance of her own making. They might say, "You always seem so at peace," or "You live life on your terms." Her rhythm wasn't about isolation. It was about intention. Each moment she chose for herself was a declaration of her worth. That quiet confidence, that ability to move through life with purpose, drew others in. Her steady pace wasn't just a way of living. It was a beacon of strength, showing that true freedom comes from within. Her solitude taught her to turn pain into growth. Every moment of doubt or loneliness became a lesson in resilience. Maybe she faced rejection and learned to value herself more, or she overcame a fear by standing alone. People didn't see the tears she shed in private, but they saw the wisdom in her eyes. They might say, "You've been through so much, yet you're so strong," or "You always know what to say." Her pain wasn't a burden, it was a teacher. That ability to transform hardship into insight made her radiant. It wasn't about hiding her struggles. It was about wearing them as badges of growth. Her wisdom, born from solitude, was a quiet power that inspired others to face their own challenges with courage. She learned to cheer for herself, even when no one else was watching. Every small win, finishing a project, mastering a skill, or simply getting through a tough day, was a reason to celebrate. Maybe she toasted herself with a glass of wine or smiled at her reflection with pride. People might have thought her life lacked joy, but they didn't see the spark in her heart. They might say, "You always seem so content," or "You make everything look effortless." Her ability to honor her own victories, no matter how small, was her strength. It wasn't about needing applause, it was about knowing her efforts mattered. That quiet pride, that inner celebration, was a beauty that shone through, drawing others to her unshakable spirit. Her time alone didn't close her heart, it opened it to the world. She saw beauty in fleeting moments. A stranger's smile, a bird's song, a kind word from a passerby. These weren't friendships, but they were connections that warmed her soul. People might say, "You have such a kind presence," or "You make people feel seen." Her solitude had taught her to cherish every interaction, no matter how small. It wasn't about filling a void. It was about finding meaning in the world around her. That openness, that ability to connect without needing to possess, was a gift. Her heart, shaped by solitude, became a quiet haven, drawing others to her warmth even as she walked her path alone. She realized that strength wasn't about having others by her side. It was about standing tall on her own. Maybe she faced a challenge alone and came out stronger, or she made a choice that others didn't understand. People saw her resilience and might say, "You're so independent," or "I admire how you handle things." Her strength wasn't loud or showy. It was steady, rooted in her ability to trust herself. It wasn't about rejecting connection. It was about knowing she was enough without it. That quiet power, that unshakable belief in herself was magnetic. Her solitude wasn't a weakness. It was a testament to her courage, a beauty that inspired others to find their own inner strength. She learned that her value didn't depend on others' presence. It came from within. With no one to validate her, she became her own champion. Maybe she looked in the mirror and saw strength in her eyes or felt pride in a choice she made alone. People might have seen her solitude as absence, but she saw it as fullness. They might say, "You seem so sure of yourself," or "You carry such confidence." Her worth wasn't tied to applause. It was rooted in her self-acceptance. That quiet certainty, that unshakable belief in her own value, was her power. It wasn't about proving anything to others. It was about knowing she was enough. Her radiance, born from self-love, drew others in, a testament to the beauty of a woman who found her worth alone. She stopped chasing others' approval and started living for herself. Maybe she wore what made her feel bold or pursued a dream without asking permission. That freedom to be unapologetically herself was magnetic. People noticed her confidence and might say, "You're so authentic," or "You inspire me to be myself." Her light didn't need validation. It shone because she allowed it to. It wasn't about being loud or demanding attention. It was about being true. That authenticity, that courage to live without needing others' nods, was a beauty that stood out. Her presence, free from the weight of expectations, became a beacon, inspiring others to embrace their own truth and shine in their own way. Her solitude became a foundation for a life filled with meaning. Without others to define her path, she chose one that reflected her heart. Maybe she volunteered for a cause she cared about or poured her energy into a passion project. People saw her dedication and might say, "You're so driven," or "You make such a difference." Her purpose wasn't about filling a void. It was about creating a life that felt true. Each step she took, each choice she made, was a brick in the foundation of a meaningful life. That quiet determination, that commitment to her own values, was a beauty that inspired others. Her life wasn't empty. It was a masterpiece of purpose built alone. Her story, shaped by solitude, became a light for others. Maybe she shared a lesson learned or offered quiet encouragement to someone struggling. People felt her impact and might say, "You've changed how I see myself," or "Your story gives me hope." Her journey wasn't about seeking followers. It was about showing what's possible. Each challenge she faced, each moment she chose to rise, inspired others to find their own strength. It wasn't about being a hero. It was about being real. That authenticity, that quiet power to uplift others, was her gift. Her story, told through her actions, became a ripple of hope, touching lives she might never know she reached. Today, she stands as a woman who turned solitude into strength. She didn't need a crowd to feel whole. She found completeness within herself. Every step, every challenge, every quiet moment of self-discovery shaped her into her own hero. People see her light and might say, "You're unstoppable," or "You're an inspiration." Her beauty isn't defined by who stands beside her. It's defined by the courage, grace, and love she carries within. She's not just surviving, she's thriving, proof that solitude can be a powerful journey to self-love. Her story shows that the greatest strength lies in embracing yourself fully, a radiant truth that lights the way for others. If you enjoyed this video, Give it a like and come back to our channel for more inspiring stories that celebrate your unique strength and beauty.